So here we are in Wix, and what I did to get to the screen was just put in my email, password, create an account. Wix is going to send you an email, ask you to confirm your email. Make sure you take care of that so that you can get into starting to build your site, and then we can go from there. So here you can kind of describe a little bit more of what your kind of planning on doing with this website, and that's going to help Wix show you the right themes and so on. So like say you were coaching, right? And you just wanted a coaching landing page, you can pop that in. If you're creating a blog, if you're making a website for your podcast, there are so many options. So just kind of type in what you're doing and see what the closest thing is. If there's something that like doesn't quite match up, just pick the closest thing. It's honestly just to help you find the right theme here. So let's just say for the sake of what I'm doing, it's an online store. You can get a little more specific if you want. But I'm just going to go with online store for now. And when I hit next, it is going to take me to this screen where you could have it designed for you, um, or you create your website with the editor. Since you're here, we're going to be creating our website with the editor. And honestly, I think it gives you a lot more freedom and control over what you're doing with your website. So I would recommend just going with this option. And I'm going to talk you through how to make all of those edits. I've honestly never used this. I'm sure everything that I'm going to talk about in here would apply to making changes in here, but we're going to go ahead with create your website with the editor. So we're going to pick a template, and honestly, it is probably like the best thing that you can do is to pick a template to start with and to pick something simple. That's the thing about websites is they could get easily like bogged down and look very overwhelming, and it's just simplicity is the best thing that you can do, and we're going to walk through. And as I'm scrolling through, like there's a couple that stand out, like this looks pretty simple, and this one here too, but this one is definitely a lot more minimalist, so I'm going to go with this. Once you hit edit template, it's going to open up into a new screen, and it's going to kind of work its magic. It looks like it's thinking right now, trying to build everything for you. And we're going to kind of dive into the different elements that you need to know as far as editing your website goes, like how to add things, how to delete things, what the different options are that you can do. So as soon as this is done thinking, there we go. We're going to talk through just kind of the basics on this page, and then I will also talk about how you can incorporate your branding before we get to the next video, which is going to focus on creating that kind of basic homepage. But this is just going to be like an overview of what you can expect here. So we're going to start in the corner up here. I mean, if you want to go like, you know, any of your settings, you can, but really right now we are focused on the editing this site. So anything like from this bar and below, we're going to be focused on. So here you can kind of navigate from page to page. It auto populates some of these based on which template you chose, and you can absolutely remove anything that is not relevant, or add on pages that you do need. So we'll talk through all of that as well. So that's how you navigate from page to page. Over here, this is looking at your website on a desktop view, which honestly, it's my preferred way of viewing things, but I know a lot of people use mobile devices to look at things. So especially if you're sending them somewhere from Pinterest or even any other social media like sites, they're likely on their phone. So you want to make sure that everything you're doing, if you click on switch to mobile, is going to look good on a mobile device as well. Sometimes, like editing on desktop, things can get a little wonky for the mobile version. So always make sure to check that. And just for the sake of ease, though, we're going to start with editing in desktop. So you can flip back to that on yours. These buttons are some of my favorites because sometimes you make a move and it doesn't work out. So you want to go back and undo it. Or if you change your mind, you can always redo it too. So those two up there. This lets you zoom out so you can see there are different, Wix calls them strips. So this is one strip, this is another strip, and then you can clearly add more. This is a very simple design. I'll show you how to add more. I'll show you how to do the banners, but when you pull back in that zoomed out view, you can also rearrange things, move things around. So, like, even this tiny thing here that just says featured items is considered a strip. So if I move this down, I'm just moving it below featured items. Um, so yeah, you could play around with it. You could drag it and drop it below. And yeah, you could delete it too if you want. So this is the zoomed out mode if you want to kind of take a look back at the whole thing. So we're going to exit this mode. Okay. And then up here you have your tools. I honestly don't really use these. I guess you could add in that if you really wanted to kind of see what the measurements are on either side. It's not necessary, so feel free if you have no use for it to skip over this and then search if you're looking for something in particular, like say you wanted to add text or something like that. You can search for that there and pull it in, but I'll also show you where else you can find that. So now we're going to go over to this sidebar here. And this add button is probably what you're going to use the most, to add in copy, to add in images, to add in calls to action, all that stuff. Like you'll see as we go kind of through this. I'm not going to read every single thing that's here because again, we want to keep it simple, and there could be some complexities to all of this. Like we don't need to worry about adding video right now. That will come later. Your goal here is to just build a professional website, and that is what we're doing. So I'll just talk about the important ones. The strips are important to add. So if you're going to add a whole bar across, this is where you're going to want to come. Most of the time, it's easy to just pick this like simple option and add what you need to it and move it around, but you could also use some of their templates, depending on what your goal is with this. So they have about for services, contact, testimonials, meet the team. So you can kind of pick which strip you want to add and work with. And again, I love templates. I think it makes life a whole lot easier to start from something, and then majority of the time you end up nowhere near where you were going going anyways, or where the strip started. um okay, so then we're down to text, which is you've picked your fonts, right? So we're going to talk about how to incorporate your heading, your subheading, and your paragraph fonts in a minute. But this is where you'll come to add those things in different sections if you needed to pull in some text, that's not already existing on the template. You have some other kind of fun options here if you wanted to do something creative, and then paragraph text. Again, we're going to keep it simple. There's so many different things that you can add to Wix and do more with. So I encourage you, if that's something that you want to do, to explore that after. But we're building that simple, professional looking website. Okay, so then images. We talked about I think in the previous module, using Unsplash or Pexels if you need to find images for your website. You can also use some of the free Wix images if you want to kind of poke around here in addition to Unsplash and Pixels. I'm not sure what service they use for that, but you can kind of see if there's anything different there. And then this is where you're going to come to upload your own images for your website. Okay. Button is another important one. This is where your calls to action to get your target audience to do something are gonna come from, and we're gonna link these when we put them in. I will show you how to do that. And again, when our branding is in, it's going to be reflected in this. You're going to see your fonts, you're going to see your colors. Then you can pick which button you want to use. So I think, and unless you have a blog, that's something that you'll kind of add in here. That's another piece of it. It would kind of go like in place of where you have the store, or if you have a shop and you also have a blog that talks about these things, you can add that in too. So you would kind of come here, see how you wanted to approach it, and then there's going to be this section down here where you would edit it, create a post, manage your posts, pick the layout of it. You can manage your store here. If you're selling products, we will kind of you can go through and start, setting things up. There's settings to make sure that you get paid within Wix, and that you'll you can play around with it if the store is what you're doing. If again, it's just a simple landing page, then makes it a lot easier. If it's a coaching services that you're going to offer, show you how to create a fresh page too, so that you can list out all your services. And I'm going to show you how to use Canva to make everything look as good as you want it to. So I okay, so the last thing I'm going to do is show you in this video how to add in your branding so that it kind of just auto populates everywhere, makes life a whole lot easier. So you'll see here when you click on this A with the little dropper, this is where you're going to edit your colors and text. So starting kind of with this first one, you can come in here and you'll see it's set to hex code. So I have mine pulled up in this Google Doc over here. I'm going to copy the first one, and you'll see that it kind of goes from light a little bit to dark. So I don't want to like replace this because I think my first color is actually a darker color. Um, and I'm not a huge fan of that. So I'm going to start down here actually putting in, and you'll see that when I up in color one, I had added that in and it didn't actually save. So what you have to make sure you do is hit add down here for that to actually register and catch. So then I'm just going to go backwards with my branding colors because it kind of goes from like a darker to a lighter. So I'd like for that to match up with what is on the site, right? Because I don't want I like the simple white clean background. So I want to make sure that my white on my brand board is going to align in the same places with the branding on this site. Words are hard. Okay. And you'll notice too, I mean, like it depends on how many colors that you kind of picked with your branding. Where like I've only got 5 here. Um, and that's fine. Like if one's not gonna be a part of it, it's not the end of the world. You can kind of pop that in manually here and there. But So you'll see like this bestseller thing was green a few minutes ago. Now it's like picking up my branding colors. And I'm sure like same throughout. Some of the things you might have to change manually, like we're looking at this footer. We'll talk about that. But that's how you input it in your colors with the hex code and then text here. So I believe there's a article kind of about the best font pairings for Wix. So definitely, if you haven't already, take a look at that to make sure that it's available in Wix what you're looking for. But if you hit this little pencil here, you can see the drop down and you can pick up all of the fonts that you chose. So that you can see it over here, what it looks like, just in case you want to change your mind. And then again, this is another thing where you have to hit apply, otherwise it's not going to register. And then let's see if I can find a heading example. There isn't one on this main page, but don't worry, there will be. We'll catch it in another one of the videos. I usually would say heading 1, 2, and 3 should kind of align, like it's going to be the same font for 1, 2, and 3. It looks a little different. Like sometimes it's a little smaller. Sometimes it's bold. So just kind of keep those the same. And then down heading like 4 and 5, like I would call heading 4, 5, and 6, I would call them subheads. But they're still listed as headings. So this is where you would pick. And you see, sorry, I want to make sure I caught this out because I almost missed this. I didn't hit apply, so it didn't pick up that I changed this font. So always make sure to hit apply and always make sure to hit save. That's a big one. I'm sure like it auto saves, but it's like peace of mind for me to hit save. So apply. Now it's actually caught. So now I'm going on to subheads, and let's say this was my subhead. Apply. And same here. You'll see the difference is like sizing, so it just depends on where you're going to be using them on your website, whether or not you choose 4, 5, or 6, whether you want it bigger or smaller. Where is that font? Here it is. Apply, and then down here is your paragraph text. So you would just kind of pick your paragraph text, say it's this, apply. Almost forgot to do that again. It's a pain in the butt if you go to actually like make changes and you didn't do that. So we're just trying to make life easier for ourselves by making these changes here. And then that way you don't have to change it every single time when you're like adding in new text or creating a whole new strip. It's just going to make life easier. Okay. So that is that. That's how you add in your branding colors and fonts. And we've talked through pretty much everything here. This background thing, wouldn't really recommend using it. We want to keep it simple, keep it white, keep it clean. Add apps if you want to explore after you've built your website. Go for it. This is probably where your library of things is held. I don't really use a section. It's just not convenient. It's easier to use it when you're going to add an image up here, manage your blog here, manage your store. And then this is if you want to include some additional tools like being able to send emails and so on. It's not necessary right now. And I'm sure you probably already have an email service provider, so you don't have to use these features here. But yeah, that is how you navigate a Wix site. You'll see anything that you click on, you can kind of hit your settings, delete things, manage them from there, make changes, and we'll kind of walk through all of that stuff too. If I wanted to, I've got this highlighted because I clicked on it. I can hit backspace and it's gone. And then I can bring it back if I realize I wanted to keep it there. So that's that's the basics of how you kind of navigate Wix. And next, we'll get into kind of putting your homepage together.